So what I thought today was this is about understanding and increasing your personal energy so that it benefits both your personal and professional life. So my plan is to give you some tips and advice as to how you can improve your personal energy. So just to give you a little quick background, it's like Incy Wincy. I belong to Halal Ho'omanaloa, which is the School of Spiritual Empowerment. And I've been a student for over 20 years. And I'm also a Huna practitioner. So we work with energy. Energy is all around us and we are energy. So looking after your energy and making sure it's clear and that you don't have any blockages or anything that's preventing you from experiencing your life as best you might, then we need to look after our energy. So energy comes from source, and this is the energy that I work with. You can become energized when you work with the energy from source because it's not your energy. So when I work with the energy from source, I'm a conduit. There are those out there who work with energy, they use their own energy, and surprise, surprise, they become sick because it depletes them. So you want to make sure if you're going to work with energy, you need to work with it from source. Boundaries. Laura likes boundaries. Set up clear boundaries and be prepared to enforce them. Something that I had to learn because I was notoriously bad at it. Remove toxic, negative people from your life. So, you know, if someone's overrunning your boundaries, first check that you're not overrunning anybody else's. Quite often it's not other people, we overrun our own boundaries. Get those organized. And then if they've overrun your boundaries, then you need to explain to them that that's what they've done and there's a consequence. And if you need to, they need to leave your life. So energy vampires, similar thing, but slightly different. They love your energy. And so they'll come and they'll suck the light out of you, literally. So you need to be able to recognize them and then you cut them loose as well. So it sounds like you're diminishing the people around you. And at some level, that's absolutely true. But the ones you want around you are the ones that support you and celebrate your talents and your skills and who you are and lift you up so that you help each other. Diet is another thing. What are you eating? What are you drinking? So things that we eat that we like more often than not aren't necessarily good for us. So we have something called kapu, which kapu means forbidden. And so there are certain foods and drinks that we avoid for various reasons. So, for example, we don't eat meat. And this is for a given period. Fish is eaten, but it's usually tuna or salmon. We don't eat bottom feeders because they eat poop. And we don't eat top feeders because they're aggressive. So you just want to be aware of the things that you're eating. And we haven't got time for it today, but if you look at your food, you can work out what elements you're eating. So is it an earth element? So is it grounding? Is it fire? Does it help with your digestion? All those sort of things. So anyway, so elements brings me on to that. Become familiar with them in your body. So, you know, if you have excess air, you might be a bit flighty in your head, a bit away with fairies. If you're having too much earth, it might be that you're very lethargic, very ploddy, can't be bothered to get out of bed in the morning. So all these sort of things you need to look at, and they help to keep your energy good. Heart breathing. Heart breathing is where you breathe in through the nose and then you expel the air, and it's a long exhalation. So what that does is it connects you to your parasympathetic nervous system, which is very calming and very relaxing. And it also connects to the elements. And it can, if you do it for long enough, you can induce an altered state of consciousness. So that can be quite fun. Elements within the body, you can do this by using the breathing. So there are 4 different things that you can do with your breathing, and each one of those things that you do will relate to an element. Then Hakalau. Haka means to focus, Lao means to expand. So when you see the, what they call the black, the rugby guys, when they're doing the haka, that it's about their focus. Well, Hakalau means that you expand your focus, so you expand it out, and then you become connected with your environment and everything in it. So chanting, I love chanting, changes your neurology and activates the vagus nerve. So it increases the information from the gut. So that's your intuition. Chanting is usually done with root languages because they have a vibration. So you've got Hawaiian, Sanskrit, Greek, and Latin. I chant in Hawaiian and Sanskrit mainly. We have something else called ho'o ku'u, which is higher self therapy. And that is the process of releasing negative emotions, limiting beliefs, and limiting decisions. And if you remove those out of your life, then you will, your energy will be better because you're not being bogged down by all this negativity. With the Hawaiians called it their black bags. So if you imagine you've got, all these bin liners full of all this negativity and you're lugging them around as well as carrying on with your everyday life, then that can be exhausting. So get rid of your black bags and then life will be much easier and lighter and your energy will be good. We also have a process called ho'oponopono, which ho'o means to make and pono means right, as in morally right. So ho'oponopono means to make right twice. And that's also known as the forgiveness process. There is something called the forgiveness prayer, which is out there, which is not quite the same as the technique that I use in Ho'oponopono. So forgiveness process is good for disconnecting from people that no longer serve you or aren't in your life anymore, and also very good for the grieving process. So my father died on Saturday, and that was one of the first things I did Ho'oponopono. I cut the uka cords to allow him to grow and evolve and go back to the light, because I didn't want to hold him here on this earth, because that's not where he wants to be. So that's that. Depossession. Sometimes, and this was my experience again on Thursday, I went to the hospital to see my father, and as I walked out of the hospital, I felt something really heavy land on my chest. And I thought, oh, that's a bit strange. And I took a deep breath as well. When I got home, and I said to my husband, can you just check I haven't brought anything home with me? And he said, well, do you think you have? And I went, yep. So I got one on my chest. So we got rid of that one. And then we found another one that was on my back, roughly about the same place. So they were both dispatched. They were not malignant. They were just a little bit lost. So thought forms like your energy, and they look for the light. So I was obviously quite shiny that time. Also, to help protect you from thought forms, we can put up a protection grid. So what that means is that it keeps the energy in your environment that you want and keeps the energy that you'd rather not have out. And once a protection grid has been put up, it's up until you take it down again. So that's very useful, because I know there are other protection grids that you can do, which have to be renewed annually. So I like the fact that we do it once and then we're done. Intuition, super important. Listen to it. The clearer you are with your energy and your energy channels, thank you, then the easier it comes through, and possibly the louder. So I had lots of occasions of that over the weekend as well. And then finally, connect with your higher self. That's the infinite and internal you, and your higher counsel. And that's who you checked in with before you got born to say what you were going to do while you were here. So if anybody wants to know a little bit more about that, then do get in touch, and then I can tell you all about it. So that's me, really. So if anybody has any questions about anything, either have a one-to-one with me at some point, or you could ask now if we have time. Thank you very much.
Perfect. And we do have time for questions, for a couple of questions. Laura, can she ask a question without coughing?
Maybe. So, can you tell me a little bit more about your protection grids, how they work, etc.? Like the idea of them.
So, it's in the system that I'm part of, the Ho'omanaloa, we have 36 opua, which you might know as symbols, but we call them opua. And so we use the symbols to set up a specific grid. So we use them in specific areas, and then we seal it. So it means that, as I say, you keep the energy that you want in and everything else out. It doesn't have to be, I mean, you could have it for your house and your garden, you know, the perimeter. If you were doing a workshop or something and you wanted the energy to be right, then you can use it for your workshop, and then you take it down when your workshop's finished. So, you know, if you had a workshop in a hotel or something, then you set it up, leave it in place until you finished your workshop. That could be 1-2 days. We have them set up at Huna. They're set up for 10 days in every room that we use. So so that's how we do that. And then it's just a matter of taking them down again, and you just reverse the process.
Yep, I think that looks like it's answered Laura's question. Has anyone else got a question for Stella? I must say, I found that really, really interesting, Stella. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you. Keith, what's your question for Stella?
Not exactly a question, Stella, but I just want to check. I guess it fits in with what you're saying. Going back now, oh crikey, how many years? 13 years to when my father died. He was in a nursing home, and I remember going to see him on a Saturday, and everything was fine. Everything was just as normal. But I came home, and something happened on the way home. I'm not sure what. I felt something. And then when I got home, I said to my partner at the time, I said, I was quite down. And she said, what's wrong? And I said, I've just seen my dad for the last time. And she was like, oh, don't be silly. Don't be silly. You know, he's fine. And then on the Tuesday morning, got a phone call to say that he'd had his breakfast, stood up from his breakfast, and he dropped down, he had a massive heart attack and dropped down dead. And yeah, I try and explain what it was on that Saturday, but I just knew that somehow that was the last time I was going to see him.
Yes, it's quite strong when the intuition kicks in. So I have a Vaiku, which are they're healing. If you think of angels, you have archangels and then you have angels. The Vaiku are like in the middle, and they are specifically created for us as individuals. So my Vaiku are created with skills and things that are specific to me. And I had asked my Vaiku to look after my dad while he was in hospital and just make sure he was okay, and to give him healing energy if he wanted it, And he had to ask for it, because when I've offered it to him before, he's declined. So that would be a boundary violation if we gave it to him and he didn't want it. So anyway, every morning I would check in with them and say, morning, how's my dad? Is he doing okay? And they'd go, yep, you're okay. And then one morning I asked them and they said no. And then when I went back to the hospital, they'd put him on morphine because he wasn't quite comfortable. And then on Saturday morning, I woke up again, said to my VICU, how's dad? How's he doing? Is he okay? And they went, no, it's time. And I was like, okay. And I just cancelled everything. And I was in the hospital by about 8:30. And I was lucky that I spent most of the day with him. And then he died later on that day, early evening. And I'm just so grateful for that, because had I not had that connection, then I wouldn't have been there. So it's very powerful, and it's very reassuring in lots of ways, because we get to know these things. Thank you for sharing, Keith.